Welcome back to the Coworking Values Podcast. I'm Emily Breeder, and today I'm on the line with Bernie Mitchell, my co-host with the Coworking Values Podcast and my partner with the Community Builders Cohort.
Hello folks, and today we're going to talk about the 5 biggest mistakes that co-working community builders make and a little bit of how to fix them. And this is a whole standalone episode on its own, but also we're going to direct you at the end of it to go to the London Coworking Assembly website, and there's a big fat box there where you can download or sign up for the 5-day email course, which goes into way more depth than you're going to get in 18 minutes with us here today, about how to avoid these mistakes and how to fix them. And all that is made up of what we've heard people say here in the 180 odd interviews that we've done on the Co-working Values podcast, and also a lot of friends of the London Co-working Assembly and the podcast and Third Place Works have produced amazing reports that are very comprehensive, and we've picked out the bits that we feel will help you avoid and solve these issues.
The first mistake that we've noticed is that a lot of co-working spaces, they market themselves as a thriving community when they haven't built their community yet.
I think I've said this about 300 times on this podcast, is so many very nice people we've worked with over the years say it's all about the community, and this is when they've just got 2 people in their building. So arguably, there is a community forming, but when you use we have a community, it's all about the community. When person number 3 walks in the building, they are going to wonder where that community is. So how could I get around this, Emily?
Well, the first most important order of business is to make sure that your first couple of members set the tone that you want to have for your community. You want to have a really strong central, people have called it a brand in the past, but really you're talking about a shared mission.
Yeah, we say this a lot in the videos we put out, is picking the first few members of your community will help shape what's going on. So if Emily and I turned up to your community, you'd end up with a lot of slightly nerdy, writery people. What other attributes do you think you'd bring to the community?
Well, I think a listening ear, patience, and a very chill vibe.
And we'd be using Discord, not Slack, and we'd be listening to house music, not what's her name? Celine Dion, for instance. 4 million pop stars shot through my brain there, and that's how the vibe would go on. So those first few people will make it happen. And then we go into more detail here in that email course, which is on the front page of the London Co-working Assembly. So should we jump on to number 2?
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of spaces focus on features over feelings. It's more like all of the things that accompany renting an office rather than the qualities of a community.
Yeah, this is a huge thing for me, because both of us have worked in. Did you used to call it catering when you were younger? Did you work in catering or did you work in hospitality?
I suppose it would be more catering, yeah.
Yeah, I went to catering college, not hospitality. I studied hospitality. It was a module, but I didn't go to hospitality college, and it makes me laugh how it's called that nowadays. But we've said this before, how people confuse luxury and hospitality, and a lot of people, including us, are raving about that Will Guidara book, Unreasonable Hospitality. And if you go very deep into that book and a lot of other material Will Guidara's put out, including the Welcome Conference, link in the show notes, it's about people being seen. The whole theme of Will Guidara's conference last year in New York was about how people being seen is the art of being hospitable. So can you, and I'm putting you on the spot here, Emily, can you think of somewhere you've been where it looks amazing and it has no soul?
Oh my gosh, I live in the United States. That's half the places around me. Essentially, any place that is created for a corporate mission tends to be kind of soulless. And any place that is created where the mission is centered around the neighborhood tends to have a soul.
So it's like Milli Vanilli versus Mr. Rogers. Maybe that cultural reference won't go as far as I wanted it to, but
I think
um,
people know Mr. Rogers by now.
I was thinking of Milli Vanilli actually. But how can I avoid being soulless?
Well, to start with, remember people's names. It sounds basic, but it's a game changer.
And then can you? I'm going to give this one to you because, like, can you say a bit about those rituals? Because that's something that
Absolutely.
you're
Yeah.
better than me.
Well, I mean, rituals are a big part of Scrum too. So, as a Scrum master, that's one of the things that make a team cohesive. The check-in process at the front, the greeting at the door, the getting your coffee, the people that you greet at the time you usually come into the co-working spaces. Those are all rituals. That pattern, that familiar pattern that you go through, and you walk through those steps, and it makes you feel that feeling of security, that feeling of home, that feeling of relaxed work where you can really just knuckle down and feel secure in your surroundings and the people around you.
So when I used to run restaurants, I mean, I didn't run huge restaurants. I don't want to misrepresent myself, but we would come in, start the shift, and as the manager, you would walk the whole building. So you go all the way through the kitchen. And I learned this of a guy called James I worked with very early on. And we would say hello to every single member of staff in the kitchen and then go out onto the floor and say hello to all the people on the floor and then go to the bar and then go to the hostess and then go and check the bin area and everything like that. And that was a really important ritual and it was a very important connection point for in a lot of ways like getting control of the building, but also like finding out how everybody is. And if you walked into the kitchen and everyone was arguing, you knew how the night may go and you could like organize it front up. But it was that walk in the floor was one of the most important rituals of setting the scene for the whole. And usually I work the night shift. It was set the scene for the morning, so for the evening shift.
Yeah.
So, do you want to add anything on there? Because we could
Yeah,
riff on this
just
forever.
one like yeah, absolutely. Just one last thing is that it's like making your rounds. You know, there's no end to hospitality, there's no end to housework, there's no end to office work. These things have cycles that they go through. So that's what the ritual is really about is that you have these rounds that you make, these places that you visit a couple of times every day just to check everything's connected, everything's warm, everything's going in the right direction. And it's just as important with hospitality as it is in a business like a hospital, where you just have to check those things. And it can be a pleasure, especially when the thing that you're managing is a community.
I've got to jump back one paragraph because why I started riffing about the restaurant walkthrough, which is complements what you said there, is going around and saying hello to every single member of staff was about. I knew it was important at the time, but I wouldn't have articulated it like this at that moment in time. But it was making sure people feel seen and, saying hello to all the people that are quiet rather than, acknowledging their part in the whole restaurant atmosphere we're creating was really, really important. I'm going to waffle now. So should we go on to mistake number 4? Dun, 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 dun.
We're actually on mistake number 3, and that
That's
one
what
is
that's what I meant to say. Sorry, dyslexic moment.
is in our drive to make spaces more inclusive, which is very important in co-working. Sometimes cliques can form, and that shuts people out.
I've got a good. I mean, you'd hope I come to a podcast with a good example of this. The so when long time ago in Old Street, there was all these tech people working in co-working spaces, and me and a lot of other people would feel very apprehensive about going into a lot of these spaces because there was a lot of people at that time who just wanted to be Mark, or we felt they wanted to be the next Mark Zuckerberg. And the intensity of those tech pro environments was really, really off putting. And then if you went in and talked to them, They were like eating their pizza and drinking their craft beer and were totally harmless. But it felt like a lot of people in our co-working meetup that we had at the time would not want to go to those buildings because they didn't feel included. And I want to point out, I don't think that the people were necessarily being, pushing other people away. They just didn't create an atmosphere that made you feel like you could walk in and feel at home. And it's that I can never remember who it is who said there's an announcement versus an invitation, and then there's like getting an invite to the disco or the dance, and then someone inviting you to dance. Is that? Do you know the bit I'm talking about?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, it's important. You gotta ask yourself who's missing from the conversation and create low pressure meetups and mentorship programs. And just like you said before, talking to quieter members to see how they're doing. Make sure everyone's feeling included. That requires a personal touch.
That I want to jump on that bit there about noticing who's missing, because I think that is not even I think I know from direct experience that I haven't known who's missing. So Elena Giroli, one of my greatest hit stories about this is I was so pumped about this event panel in London back in like 2014 when we were doing all the sharing economy stuff. And I had all these hotshot people from big companies and use their products every day. And it was probably one of the most high powered tech event lineups I've ever got in my life. And then Elena Gironi said, is it only white men, middle-aged white men who work for tech companies that are involved in the sharing economy? And I just didn't notice that I'd put together this panel. And I was so jacked up on who I could get from a big name company to come and contribute that I kind of ignored the rest of the world in air quotes. So you have to, with all this inclusion, accessibility, diversity conversation, the notice who is missing or who's not in the room is the way to kind of check. Would you say check yourself? Is that the right language?
Yeah, yeah. You gotta see who's absent.
Yeah. I was about to go into an Ice Cube lyric there, but I just held back, for.
We were all thinking it, I'm sure. But let's
Thank
go
you.
into mistake number 4, which is not having clear communication channels. Why don't you talk about this one, Bernie?
This is a favorite one, and this is. I think it's very easy to say, oh, having articulate this as a mistake, but working out what channel works for people, because very often you would have been to this event over here. These folks over here are all using Discord and it works well. And then you go back to these people over here and they all want to use WhatsApp or Telegram or Slack. And you just can't understand why one thing works over here and doesn't over there. And you need to find, I personally think, like the best way to keep in touch with people, not have a conversation with people, but to keep in touch with people is email, because everyone has an email address. And if you get very good at writing emails, they're quick and easy to send, and they're not technically heavy, and people will open them, and then you can do other things for that. But trying to get a group of people onto an app to have a conversation and maintain a rhythm together is really hard. So starting very, very simple is the way to go. So don't start a community and then go and invest in some great big app like Circle. Just make it very simple so people can take part. The learning curve isn't really, really huge. And one last thing, and then I'll let you go, Emily, is so many places where I've like run the community in a co-working space, I've emailed everyone, and then I've got very upset they didn't all open it in the first 3 minutes of me sending it to them, even though we were all sitting in the same room. And you can email people in your co-working community, and then you need to go round and, going back to what we were saying just now, invite them personally. So making an announcement via email and then walking around without being a weirdo saying, oh, Emily, do you want to come to the barbecue tonight? Or we're having a games night or whatever you're doing. It's not just one thing and it's done. It's like many layers that work for the way you communicate with people or how your building works and stuff like that. Sorry, I spoke for nearly 5 minutes non-stop there, Emily. Sorry.
It's okay. It's just consistency, really. It's the most important part for me on this one because a lot of people will start an email list or they'll start a new channel and then they just wait for other people to do the thing. And it's just not going to happen like that. It very rarely happens like that unless you already have a community set up. If you're just starting out, you need to be consistent about pointing people towards that place and using it yourself.
And don't change. I've been in. I've done this as well, actually, but so many times, particularly in the when Product Hunt first started, there was a new app every week, and as a group of us, we're always trying this new app, and we'd always try to introduce it. So some people hadn't worked out how to use Skype yet, and we were trying to get them onto Telegram, and it was just too much. So, like, one thing really simple that everyone buys into, and there's no best app, it's the one that everyone will use is the best communication thing. So, shall we jump on to number 5?
Yeah, thinking growth only means more people. So a packed space doesn't necessarily mean a strong community, and filling desks really fast often dilutes the culture and weakens retention. You might think that you need to fill up all the desks and then you have a vibrant community, but if they're not connected yet, they're just people in a room.
Yep. And I think this is, I might upset a few people with this. Like going back to your little corporate comment earlier, is just I've been in corporate places you would accuse of being corporate, but they're run by really good people and they definitely have a vibe. But very often the sort of overall intention of a corporate-y run space is to get as many people as possible because you are at the mercy of investors and people like that. So they don't be surprised they want a return on their investment. Whereas this is a very personal view, but the co-working spaces that I've always felt most at home in and enjoyed working with are where the owner has started it because they wanted to start something and build a community, and they were a designer. They had another job and got a bigger office space, or you're allowed to say that, sorry, bigger space to put desks in, which is called an office, so they could share it with other people. And there's a very different vibe there. And it goes back to where we began this thing. Do you remember we were saying about how the first few people you get in will help shape the rest of it? So it's better to build that community one by one with intention than it is to get 100 people signing up.
So we've covered 5 of the biggest mistakes co-working leaders make, and hopefully you've picked up some ideas to avoid them. We hope that you've taken away from this that the community is not just about the space, it's about the people and the systems that support them. And if this resonated with you, we've got that 5-day email course that is in the show notes. We've got our cohorts, which provides 3 months. If you've got a period of time coming up, you're going to be busy, you need that extra accountability and support, this is the ideal time to sign up for a cohort and get the support from co-working leaders. Some might be in your neighborhood, some might be in other countries, but they'll all have valuable things to say. Plus, of course, Bernie and me.
Yahoo. And we, at the time we're recording this, next week we'll be at the Workspace Design Show in London, and we will be running 3 workshops. One is on how to use AI every day in your co-working space to run an event, and the second one is about inclusive space design, and that is with 360 Workplace and Urban MBA. And then we'll be going to the Urban MBA HQ and running a whole workshop with 2 unreasonable hospitality guides, Sonia and Julie, about how to incorporate hospitality into your, I don't know why I'm stumbling on this, how to incorporate hospitality into your co-working space. And that's probably one of the most valuable things we've ever done. It's a 3-hour workshop which will break down all the elements in the book. It's very, very interactive, very, very hands-on, and you will just, I already know something will click massively as a result of you turning up to that. So go to our show notes. We'll link to all those things. We're very proud of our show notes, and there's the link to all the links that Emily mentioned, and also there's one more thing which I really want to say. European Coworking Day, at the time of recording this, is just 12 weeks away. Wherever you are in the world, ladies and gentlemen, be careful out there. It is a jungle.